Hello, let's talk about Rogue, the brand new episode of Doctor Who. This was a pretty highly anticipated episode for a lot of people. A lot of people were really excited for this one because this was the Bridgerton influenced episode. I was actually kind of intrigued to see what this was because this is one of only two episodes of this series that's not been written by showrunner Russell T Davies, and it's actually the only episode of Doctor Who this series that's written by people who've never written for Doctor Who before. Of course, Boom was written by Stephen Moffat. This was fun. I liked this one. This was a fun episode. I think they positioned this one right in the series as well, because of course next week we start with the two-part finale, which looks like it's going to be kind of big and dramatic and, you know, very action-packed. So I like that we put this in between the two quite sort of experimental episodes. We had 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble, which are very unlike other Doctor Who episodes. And then next week we've got the big dramatic finale. So I like that we have this kind of quite light, quite easy to watch adventure right in the middle of those episodes here. So I really liked the period setting for this episode. I thought a Regency era setting is great. Obviously it's very influenced by the recent success of Bridgerton. They even name drop Bridgerton a few times in the episode itself, but I think really the kind of the mystery and the sci-fi elements work really well in this Regency era period. It's basically a sort of Agatha Christie style locked door mystery mixed with a Regency era romance, and then with a bunch of alien sci-fi shenanigans thrown in to make it very distinctly Doctor Who. This episode, to me, actually kind of felt like a bit of a throwback to the other Russell T Davies era, you know, from the sort of 2006 to 2005 to 2009 kind of era. Like, I could see this being an episode with the 10th Doctor and Rose, for instance. With only a few changes made. But yeah, I really liked this one a lot. I like that we got a lot of the Doctor in this episode. Of course, the last two episodes, he's not really been in them as much, so I like that we got a lot more of the Doctor, and the Doctor and Ruby together. That was really, really fun. Ruby is really bad at blending in. I mean, I know she's trying her best, but like she keeps saying stuff. I'm like, these like posh Regency era people are not going to understand what you're saying, love. They're really not. I like the aliens in this. The aliens are very cool and very sort of distinctly Doctor Who. The kind of, the sort of bird and human kind of hybrid design was fantastic. Really big fan of that. And I like also that the aliens' kind of motivation was basically cosplay. Like they just want to cosplay as people, but because it's Doctor Who, the way they cosplay is by killing people and then turning into them, and then shapeshifting into them. But yeah, the idea of, them sort of, taking over the world because of cosplay is a very strange idea, but one that I think fits the kind of goofy tone of this episode brilliantly. This was a really fun episode overall. I could see this becoming a comfort episode in the future for me. I really liked Rogue as a character. I thought Rogue was really, really fun. Jonathan Groff played him very well. I liked the chemistry he had with the Doctor. I think Ncuti Gatwa and Jonathan Groff had really, really good chemistry. And I like that that Rogue and the Doctor kind of go from trying to kind of one-up each other to then working together, to having banter, to the flirting and all that sort of stuff. I think it all just works really, really well. I think it's quite well written, particularly the kind of the banter and the one-upping each other. And I think, Gatwa and Groff played it really, really well. I actually like the scene where the Doctor's trying to cause where the Doctor and Rogue are trying to cause a distraction. Is we have to have a fight, just follow my lead, and he starts going like, "You cad!" and like shouting things at him, and Rogue is just like, "What do I do? I have no idea what to do." That was a really funny scene. I liked that. A lot of stuff with those two just made me laugh because I thought they were really, really good with their back and forth. I liked the ending with Rogue as well, where he kind of, sacrificed himself for Ruby. He switches places with Ruby on the transporter thing and then sends himself and all the villains to another dimension. And I do like that they actually explained why they can't just go off in the TARDIS and find him as well. That was really good. Liked that. But the thing that I really liked about that ending is Rogue didn't die. He's not actually dead. He's just in a different dimension. So that really kind of leaves the door open for a possible return, and I would really like to see more of Rogue. Like, I could really see him becoming a character like Captain Jack Harkness or River Song, where he's not sort of a full-on companion, but he sort of shows up sporadically and, you know, kind of adds to an adventure, because I think he was really good. And again, I really liked Jonathan Groff's performance here. Thought that was great. I really liked the makeup and the effects on the monsters. I thought they were really cool. They looked really cool. And they were really well played as well. I like that they kind of went, the actors playing them kind of went from the kind of very sort of period drama style acting to very kind of over-the-top, wacky sci-fi villain acting. They were all really good. Everyone was really good in this. There wasn't really a bad performance in this episode. I liked the stuff with Ruby and the other girl as well, Lady Emily, I want to say. I think that was her name. But she ended up being one of the aliens as well. And that broke my heart. I was like, oh, you two were being such good friends, and it turns out she's evil. Oh, that sucks. But no, I liked that as well. That was all fun. This episode is very light and very kind of easy to watch. You know, I think after the deliberately ambiguous episode and the kind of deliberately pessimistic episode, this was a nice palate cleanser before we go into the two-part finale starting next week, which looks brilliant, by the way. We're going to pay off all the Susan Twist stuff. She was not technically in this episode. She was a portrait on the wall in this episode, but she wasn't technically, like, physically in it. But yeah, they're going to pay that off next week. That looks really interesting as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Easter egg. So there's a part where the Doctor is on Rogue's ship. Rogue, by the way, just completely makes fun of the TARDIS. Says, it's a shed. Your ship is a shed. What is this? And then the Doctor says, man, your ship is a mess. Like, you need to tidy up in here. It's very disorganised. Anyway, they were doing this banter all the way through. But I like the scene where the Doctor kind of gets Rogue to scan him, and it's revealed that he's a Time Lord, because Rogue initially thinks he's the shape-shifting alien that he's trying to catch, because he's a bounty hunter. But he's scanning himself, and you see all the different heads of all the different Doctors floating around in a hologram. So you see Jodie Whittaker, you see Matt Smith, you see David Tennant twice, of course, because he was two different Doctors. But at one point we also see what is very clearly the head of Richard E. Grant. Now, Richard E. Grant, of course, for those who don't know, played the Schalke Doctor. The Doctor in the episode Scream of the Schalke, which was a sort of an animated special commissioned by the BBC for the 40th anniversary of Doctor Who in 2003. I believe it was an online exclusive, but it was this animated adventure that was released 2 years before Doctor Who came back in 2005, and it had Richard E. Grant voicing the Doctor. Now, since the show has returned in 2005, a lot of people have kind of debated whether or not Richard E. Grant's Doctor is canon, and if he is, whereabouts in the canon he fits. Because for a while they kind of assumed, well, he must be the real kind of 9th Doctor, and then the 9th Doctor is actually the 10th, and then, the 10th is the 11th, and so on. But then Stephen Moffat kind of retconned that by adding in John Hurt as the War Doctor, and at the end of Day of the Doctor we see him start to regenerate into Christopher Eccleston, and we see Paul McGann, regenerate into him before that. So a lot of people kind of, I think myself included, kind of wrote off Richard E. Grant as being, sort of a non-canon Doctor. But they seem to have confirmed here that the Schalke Doctor is canon and does fit somewhere within the Doctor's very confusing timeline. So that, I really liked that. That really made my nerd heart happy, because I love all these kind of niche things about Doctor Who, and I'm like, oh, it's the Schalke Doctor! The Schalke Doctor is canon, confirmed! Love that. That was great. I went and rewatched Scream of the Schalke just afterwards as well, because I'm like, I'm in the mood for the Schalke Doctor now. That's cool. Also, another thing I really liked when Rogue goes into the TARDIS. Because obviously, like I say, he was kind of dismissing it as this, it looks like a shed from the outside, and then when he went inside, he did exactly what I would do if I went in the TARDIS as well, which is just run around like a kid going, oh my god, look at everything in here! It's so good. And this is kind of the start of them working together. Like, up until this point, they've been kind of at each other's throats, trying to one-up each other. Very kind of friendly banter kind of way, but they have been trying to one-up each other and suss each other out. But they go in the TARDIS just after the Rogue ship scans the Doctor, and then they decide, okay, we can team up and form an alliance and work together here. So that's where the TARDIS team comes from. And as a duo, I think they're great. As I say, I would not be against seeing Rogue come back in the future. I think that could be really, really fun. I really like what Kate Herron and Bryony Redman brought to this script. Like I say, it's a bit of a lighter script than the rest of than what the series has been so far, and it does feel a bit more kind of traditional Doctor Who, as opposed to the other kind of more experimental episodes we've had this series so far. But I really liked it. I thought they did a good job. I'd like to see them come back and write another episode, because I think that could be really fun. I'd actually really like to see Kate Herron direct an episode. Of course, Kate Herron, for those who are unaware, she was the director of Season 1 of Loki for Marvel. And that was a show that was very favourably compared to Doctor Who. So I'd quite like to see her come back and see what she can do behind the camera directing an episode of Doctor Who. I think she'd be a perfect fit for that. But in terms of their script, it was witty, it was fun, it was fast-paced. Sure, it's not like... I don't think it's the best episode of the series by any means, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I could see it becoming, like I say, I could see it becoming a comfort episode for me in the future, just one that I just put on when I'm in a bad mood, just to cheer myself up. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say about Rogue. Probably not as much as what I've said past couple of weeks, but this is a more kind of, like I said, this is a much more light-hearted episode. This is a much more easy-to-watch episode. This was a much more... It felt much more traditional Doctor Who. It felt much more like what I expect from Doctor Who. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I'm just saying, you know, the last two episodes, 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble, they've had a lot of stuff to talk about because they've been very kind of experimental and strange in nature. This episode, much more kind of standard affair, but a lot of fun. I really liked it. I had a big smile on my face all the way through this. And then we got the trailer, of course, for next time when we get Unit showing up in the finale as well. And, of course, all the stuff with Susan Twist. So I cannot wait to see that. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up from me today. Let me know what you thought of Rogue down in the comments. We'll have a chat about it. Thanks for watching. See you when I see you. Bye.